My childhood home wasn't just a house, it was a sanctuary, a living testament to love and laughter. Every creaking floorboard held a memory. Every sun-drenched windowsill whispered tales of my mother's gentle presence. I was Eleanor, and this house, nestled on a quiet, tree-lined street, was the heart of my world. My mother, with her radiant smile and boundless warmth, and my father, a man of quiet strength and unwavering devotion, created an idyllic haven where I felt utterly safe and cherished. Then the unimaginable happened. A shadow fell over our perfect world, swift and merciless. My mother, vibrant and full of life one moment, was gone the next, taken by a sudden, aggressive illness. The silence she left behind was deafening, a gaping wound in the fabric of our lives. My father, once a pillar of strength, crumbled. He became a ghost in his own home, moving through the days with a haunted look in his eyes. I, a teenager grappling with my own profound grief, watched helplessly as the man I admired most slowly faded. Months bled into a year, and the house, once so full of light, felt heavy with sorrow. That's when Brenda entered our lives. My father met her at a grief support group, a place of shared pain, which, in hindsight, was fertile ground for manipulation. Brenda was striking. Her laugh was a little too loud, her makeup a little too perfect, but she had a way of cutting through my father's gloom, making him smile, even if it was a fragile, fleeting thing. I wanted to be happy for him, truly, but something about Brenda always felt off, like a beautifully wrapped gift hiding a brittle, empty box. She moved in quickly, bringing with her 2 children, Kevin and Tiffany. They were both a few years younger than me, teenagers steeped in a culture of entitlement and instant gratification. Kevin was a hulking mass of indifference, glued to video games, his room a biohazard zone. Tiffany, a self-proclaimed influencer in training, spent her days filming endless, vapeless TikToks, her voice shrill and incessant. From the moment they crossed the threshold, the sanctuary I knew began to rot from within. My father, still lost in his grief and perhaps desperate for a semblance of normalcy, seemed utterly blind to the shift. Brenda, initially sweet and accommodating, slowly, subtly began to assert her dominance. My mother's cherished antique vase, once proudly displayed, was relegated to a dusty corner, replaced by Brenda's garish, mass-produced decor. My father's favorite armchair was suddenly uncomfortable and moved to the basement. Every change was small, seemingly innocuous, but each chipped away at the soul of the house, and by extension, my own. I became a stranger in my own home. My father, once my confidant, grew distant, almost deferential to Brenda. He'd brush off my concerns about Kevin's constant mess or Tiffany's rude remarks with a weary sigh, muttering about blending families and adjusting. Brenda, meanwhile, perfected the art of passive-aggressive commentary. "Eleanor, darling, are you sure you want to wear that? It's a bit dated." Or, "Oh, you're still reading books. How quaint." Her words were always delivered with a saccharine smile, making it impossible to challenge without sounding like the ungrateful, difficult stepdaughter. Kevin and Tiffany, emboldened by their mother's subtle reign, became even more insufferable. They treated the house like a hotel, leaving their dishes for me to clean, their laundry scattered, their music blaring. My protests were met with blank stares or eye rolls. "Mom says it's fine," was their usual refrain. I started spending more time in my room, retreating into books, trying to drown out the constant noise and the gnawing feeling of being an intruder in my own life. Then, the second tragedy struck. My father, who had never truly recovered from my mother's death, fell gravely ill. His decline was rapid, a cruel echo of my mother's passing. During those agonizing months, Brenda transformed into the dutiful wife, but her concern felt performative, a carefully constructed facade. She controlled access to my father, filtered information, and made all medical decisions, often sidelining me. I watched my father fade, not just from illness, but from the emotional distance Brenda had fostered. It was excruciating to see him, my once vibrant hero, reduced to a shadow, and to feel so utterly helpless. When he finally passed, a profound, desolate emptiness settled upon me. The grief was overwhelming, layered with a bitter resentment towards Brenda and her children, who seemed to treat my father's death as an inconvenience, a disruption to their comfortable lives. They barely shed a tear, quickly returning to their screens and their frivolous pursuits, while I felt like my world had ended twice over. Then came the will reading. It was a somber affair, held in the hushed office of my father's longtime attorney. Brenda sat beside me, flanked by Kevin and Tiffany, all of them radiating an air of expectant entitlement. I merely felt numb, disconnected. The lawyer began to read, his voice low and steady, detailing my father's assets, his wishes. And then, the bombshell. My father, in a final act of love and protection that brought tears to my eyes, had left everything to me: the house, the entire estate, and a substantial sum of $1.2 million. Brenda and her children were explicitly left nothing. Not a single penny, not a piece of furniture. My father, even in his declining health, had seen through Brenda's facade, had understood the true heart of his home.
The silence in the room was deafening, punctuated only by Brenda's sharp intake of breath. Her face, usually so composed, contorted into a mask of disbelief. Then rage. "What?" she shrieked, her voice shattering the solemnity. "This is outrageous! We're his family. I was his wife." The lawyer, unperturbed, calmly explained that my father had made his wishes very clear, and the will was ironclad. Brenda continued to rant, her accusations flying, but I just sat there, a strange mix of profound relief and renewed grief washing over me. My father had protected me, even from beyond the grave. He had given me back my home. The ride home was fraught with tension. Brenda, her face flushed with fury, started immediately. "Eleanor, this is unacceptable. Your father wouldn't have wanted this. You need to do the right thing and share it. We're family." I looked out the window, the familiar streets blurring past. "He made his wishes clear, Brenda," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "The will is final." Her eyes narrowed. "Oh, it is it? Well, we'll see about that. You think you can just kick us out after all I've done for your father?" That night, the atmosphere in the house was toxic. Brenda paced, muttering threats, while Kevin and Tiffany huddled together, whispering furiously. I retreated to my room, the weight of the revelation settling heavily upon me. My father's gift was immense, but it came with a colossal problem. Brenda and her entitled brood were still living under my roof. The next morning, I came downstairs to find Brenda at the kitchen table, a smirk playing on her lips. Kevin and Tiffany were already there, stuffing their faces with cereal, completely oblivious to the storm brewing. Brenda cleared her throat, a theatrical gesture. "Eleanor, we need to talk about the rent." My blood ran cold. "The rent?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Yes, darling," she purred, her eyes glinting with malicious satisfaction. "Now that you're the owner of this lovely home and you have all that money, it's only fair that you contribute. Kevin, Tiffany, and I have decided that $800 a month should be perfectly reasonable. You'll be paying us, of course, to live here." The audacity, the sheer, unmitigated gall. I stared at her, my mind reeling. She was demanding I pay her rent to live in my own house, a house my father had explicitly left to me, while she and her lazy children lived here for free. It was a moment of pure, blinding fury, a white-hot spark igniting in the depths of my grief-stricken soul. This wasn't just about money. It was about respect, about ownership, about the blatant disrespect she was showing to my father's memory and to me. "Brenda," I said, my voice low, trembling with suppressed rage. "This is my house. My father left it to me. I don't pay you rent to live in my own house." She laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Oh, don't be ridiculous, Eleanor. We were here first. Your father wouldn't want you to be so selfish. Besides, we need the money. It's the least you can do." Kevin and Tiffany nodded in agreement, their faces devoid of any understanding. That was it. The final straw. The injustice of it all. The years of subtle abuse. The blatant disrespect. The demand for rent in my own home after my father's death.
It all coalesced into a fierce, unshakable resolve. I was done being the silent, grieving victim. I was done being a doormat. My father had given me the means to fight back, and I would use it. That very day, I called the lawyer again. His name was Mr. Henderson, a kind older man who had handled my father's affairs for decades. I explained Brenda's outrageous demand, my voice shaking with a mixture of anger and a strange new determination. He listened patiently, then confirmed what I already knew. As the legal owner, I had every right to evict them. "Eleanor," he said, his voice firm but gentle, "this will not be easy. They will fight you. But you are on solid legal ground. Do you want to proceed?" "Yes," I said, the word a steel-hard declaration. "I want them out." The process began. Mr. Henderson drafted the eviction notice, a cold, formal document that felt utterly surreal in my hands. The day I served it was a blur of emotions. I found Brenda in the living room, watching some ridiculous reality show. Kevin and Tiffany sprawled nearby. I walked up to her, the paper feeling heavy in my hand, and simply placed it on the coffee table. "This is for you, Brenda," I said, my voice steady, despite the tremor in my hands. She picked it up, her brow furrowing as she read. Her eyes widened, then narrowed into slits of pure venom. "What is this?" she shrieked, crumpling the paper. "You can't do this, you selfish little brat. I'll call the police. I'll call my lawyer." "You can call whoever you like," I replied, a newfound calm settling over me. "But the house is mine, and you have 30 days to leave." The house became a war zone. Brenda's initial shock gave way to a relentless campaign of psychological warfare. She slammed doors, blasted music, left messes everywhere, and made my life an absolute hell. She tried to enlist my father's friends, spreading vicious lies about me, claiming I was heartless and greedy. Kevin and Tiffany, suddenly realizing the gravity of the situation, grew sullen and hostile, making snide remarks and dirty looks. They tried to appeal to my better nature, reminding me of all the good times we'd shared, conveniently forgetting years of their blatant disrespect.
I held firm. Each day was a battle of wills, but I had something they didn't, the law on my side, and a righteous anger fueling my resolve. I meticulously documented every incident, every threat, every attempt at intimidation, just in case. Mr. Henderson advised me to stay strong, to avoid any physical confrontations, and to let the legal process run its course. It was agonizing, living under the same roof with people who openly hated me, who were actively trying to make my life miserable, but I knew the end was in sight. Brenda did try to fight it. She hired a lawyer, a flashy, expensive-looking man who clearly specialized in delaying tactics. But Mr. Henderson was prepared. He presented the ironclad will, the property deeds, and the clear legal standing. Brenda's lawyer quickly realized she had no case. Her claims of being entitled to a share or that my father had intended to leave her something were dismissed. The judge sided with me, confirming the eviction order. The 30 days were up, and Brenda, Kevin, and Tiffany had to leave. Eviction day dawned crisp and cold, mirroring the chill in my heart. I had arranged for movers, and Mr. Henderson had advised me to have a police escort present, just in case. The officers arrived first, two stoic individuals who stood by the front door, their presence a silent, undeniable authority. Then the moving truck pulled up. Brenda emerged from her room, her face a thundercloud. Kevin and Tiffany shuffled behind her, their usual swagger replaced by a defeated slump. "You really went through with it, didn't you, Eleanor?" Brenda hissed, her voice trembling with a mixture of disbelief and fury. "You heartless witch, your father would be ashamed." I met her gaze, my own eyes cold. "My father left me this house, Brenda. He would be ashamed of you, trying to steal it from me." The movers began their work, efficiently dismantling furniture, boxing up belongings. Brenda screamed. She argued. She threatened. She tried to bar their entry to certain rooms, but the police officers calmly, firmly ensured they had access. Kevin and Tiffany watched, their faces pale, as their video games, their clothes, their entire fabricated lives were packed into boxes and loaded onto the truck. There were no tears, just a stunned, hollow despair. "Where are we supposed to go?" Tiffany wailed at one point, her voice cracking. "We have nowhere." "That's not my concern," I said, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. I felt a pang, a fleeting moment of something akin to pity,
but it was quickly extinguished by the memory of their years of cruelty, their mother's relentless manipulation, and the sheer audacity of their entitlement.
The final box was loaded. The mover shut the truck doors. Brenda, her face blotchy and tear-streaked, gave me one last look of pure hatred before she and her children climbed into a beat-up old car she'd somehow acquired. They drove away, leaving behind a silence so profound it echoed. The police officers offered a brief nod of acknowledgement and then departed. I stood in the doorway of my house, the front door wide open, letting in the crisp autumn air. The house was empty, stripped bare of Brenda's gaudy decorations and the detritus of Kevin and Tiffany's lives. It was just me and the echoes of my past. I walked through each room, a wave of relief washing over me, followed by a profound sadness. The house was mine again, but the journey to reclaim it had been steeped in pain and loss. The $1.2 million, once an abstract number, became a tangible symbol of my father's love and foresight. I carefully managed it, investing wisely, ensuring my future was secure. I didn't splurge. I honored my father's legacy by being responsible. I started renovating the house, stripping away every trace of Brenda and her children, painting, repairing, and bringing back the warmth and light my mother had infused into it. I filled it with new memories, with friends who truly cared, and with the quiet peace I had longed for. It wasn't a sweet victory. It was a bitter one, earned through profound grief and a fight I never wanted to wage. But it was necessary. It taught me the brutal truth that sometimes standing up for yourself, for your inheritance, for your very home, means confronting the darkest aspects of human nature. I lost a father, but I found my voice, my strength, and eventually my way back home, reclaiming not just a house, but a life that was truly, finally, my own.